Hi, this is Katie. In today's video, I want to talk about what not to do when you're traveling alone. I did part 1 of this video like a week or 2 ago, and I wanted to make a part 2 for you guys because I have a lot of advice on what not to do when you're traveling alone. So if you're interested in this video, I really hope that you're subscribed and I hope that you keep watching. Okay, so a lot of you guys know that I've lived in this tiny little car on and off, but for the past 10 years. And I've been driving around this whole country. I'm in America, and I've been driving around the whole country, and most of my travels have been alone. And so I definitely have learned a lot while I've been on the road. I did a video a week or 2 ago talking about a couple of the things that I do not recommend doing when you're traveling alone. So if you have not watched that video, I will have it linked up here. But in this video, I just wanted to give you guys a few more. And honestly, I'm probably gonna have a part 3 for this video because I have a lot of advice. And you guys know that I can talk. Again, I'll have the first video linked up here. You don't need to watch them in order because it just doesn't really matter. They're just like random little facts or ideas, opinions. They're not facts, they're opinions. These are my opinions. Facts and opinions are not the same. These are my opinions on what to do. I think that this advice will pertain to any different type of travel that you're doing, but also I think it pertains if you're going to be traveling with other people as well. I just think it's a little bit more important when you're traveling alone. So anyway, number 1 is do not believe, this is going to be a hard one, do not believe that traveling by yourself or going on a road trip or anything like that, don't believe that it's always gonna be as easy, fun, or glamorous like all the influencers show online. I know that there are a ton of people doing car life, van life, just traveling in general and vlogging it all over the internet. I know it's super, super popular and it has been for several years. I just want to remind you guys that every single person who posts anything online gets to choose what they post and that you're not ever seeing the full story. And so I know, at least for me, and hopefully you guys will agree with this, I like to show you guys the good and the bad. When I'm traveling, when I'm not traveling, my lifestyle, my mental health, all of it. I like to show you guys the good and the bad. But do I still show you everything? No, of course not. It would almost be impossible for me to, but I definitely don't. I get to choose what I'm public about, and I also just get to choose what I want to show. And that pertains to everyone. And I know there's a lot of content creators or influencers online who kind of do only show the best, who only do show the days that they're adventuring. They only do show the cool parts of their lifestyle. Some people might also show some of the bad parts, but they might, you know, kind of make them still seem a little bit cool, you know what I mean? And it's not necessarily that they're lying or anything, it's just that they get to choose what they show you. And sometimes they're only gonna show you what's really, really cool, or what's adventurous, or what seems the most fun. And that's fine. A lot of them want to entertain you, and so that's okay that they only want to show you the good, right? I think that that's okay. I don't think that that means that they're lying or anything like that. I think that that means that they want to entertain you and they get to choose what they show. However, if you're going to be doing it yourself, I just hope that you guys will very, very, very quickly realize that not everything about any lifestyle in life is always going to be 100% cool, fun, easy, adventurous, nothing like that. But yeah, I just want to remind you guys that nothing that you do, no lifestyle change, no goal, but specifically we're talking about traveling, specifically alone, it's just not gonna be what you see. And it's also just not gonna be how it is for someone else anyway, because we're all different people. We're all gonna be doing different things, you know? A lot of people nowadays have really like adventurous van life channels, but you might wanna live in a van and not hike every day. You might not be a climber. You might not be someone who loves being on the water all the time. You know what I mean? So like it is allowed. I'm giving you permission here. It is allowed to look differently for you than it does for other people. And that's even something that I don't struggle with necessarily, but that I notice in myself. My channel and the way that I travel is very different than all like the really cool van lifers do it now. It is just very, very different. And I think that that's okay because we're all different people. And also I've been doing this for a really long time, and I kind of know just the way that I like to travel, or when I sleep in my car, I know the ways that I like to do that, because not everything that you even see is going to be things that you want to do, and that's okay. But yeah, I just want to remind you, real big reminder, that not everything you see online is, it's not that it's not real, because it is real, but just remember that people are picking and choosing what they show you, and it might just be for entertainment value. And so if you're going to be doing it too, it does not need to look like what they're doing, but also it might not be as easy or glamorous It just might not. It might be even more fun than what you see online. It might be even more glamorous or easier than you think, and that's great, but it might not, you know? So just kind of have like really neutral expectations if you can with certain things comparing to other people. And it's definitely okay if you want to travel differently or have, you know, a van layout differently, or if you want to travel with more stuff or less stuff, or if you aren't very adventurous, or if you want to do just different things. It's okay. I know some of these might sound like common sense or they're obvious ideas, but sometimes it's hard to even think of the things that are so obvious or that might seem like common sense. Sometimes it's still hard to wrap our minds around that and still live by it. And so this one I know in particular might just be something that is a little harder to do, because you may be watching van life, car life, people who travel alone. You may have been watching it for years and then you decided you wanted to do it. It's going to be really hard to not go into it thinking that it's going to look like everything that you saw online. It's just going to be hard. That's just a hard thing. If we've seen it for years and then we go and do it, your brain is going to just kind of naturally have some assumptions and expectations. I'm just wanting to remind you here that it's probably not going to look like what it does online. It could, but it might not. It might be harder, it might be easier, it might be more fun, it might be less fun. You know, it might just look different than what you see online. How many times can I say that? A million? That's me, Katie Carney, repeat yourself. The next one, and this one I think is very important, especially nowadays. I wrote here, don't get a van if you want a car or if you can't afford a van, just because everyone else has one, or just because it seems cool. And this could be with anything. You don't need to get a big RV just because it seems cool. You don't need to get a bus just because it seems cool. This is a really big one nowadays, especially for someone like me. A lot of you guys know I've traveled in a car. I'm in a Toyota Yaris. It is this big. Like it's a small car. I travel in this car. This is a long story. I'll make it really short. Basically because I already had it when I started traveling. And I'm a pretty basic, minimalistic kind of girl. Not a basic girl, but like basic in terms of like, if I already have something, I'll use it how I can. I don't want to be extravagant in certain ways. It's just not me. And so when I wanted to start traveling, going on road trips, sleeping in my car, I already had this car. And so I just made it work. That's how I chose to do it. I also didn't really want to spend a lot of money on something new. And I just, for me, never saw a reason to get anything bigger. That's just me. That's my opinion on what I'm doing. And I started traveling about 10 years ago, and I started doing YouTube, showing my travels and just chatting with you guys about 7.5 years ago. I think van life has gotten really cool over the last few years. And so I get asked all the time, oh, are you gonna get a van? Why don't you have a van? Are you gonna upgrade for a van? And I'm like, guys, like, we're allowed to have different ideas. Obviously it's totally okay if someone's just curious, but I think a lot of people now, it's like their initial reaction, if you live in a car or you say you travel, is that you have a van, because van life is cool now. And I'm not saying that it's bad. Van life is very, very cool. I know it is. I think it's awesome. But it does not mean that it's for you. And so you might be someone who's like, you know what? I already have a car. I really want to start traveling ASAP, and saving up for the van that I would really want would take 6 months. I'm just going to go in my car. Or, you know, a smaller van, or not a super renovated van. Or you might be like, I can only afford this much smaller van. It's not as cool as everyone else's. I can't renovate it right now. You know, you might be doing something that you know is right for you, but that it's different than everyone else. And I just want to encourage you guys that that's okay. It's okay if you want to do car life and not van life. You might want something that's more extravagant. That's okay too. And I just think sometimes when things get really, really popular, sometimes it's difficult to almost even admit to yourself that you might want something that's not popular. And so I just want to give you permission. You don't need permission, obviously, but I just want to give you the push and the reminder that you do not need to do what's around you just because it's cool, just because it's what's popular, just because everyone else is doing it, just because people ask you about it. People ask me all the time about a van. I really don't think I'll ever get a van, maybe, but I don't see that happening. But I just want to encourage you that if you already have a car and you want to travel in your car, but van life seems cool and everyone's asking you why you don't have a van, if you don't want a van, don't get a van. If you don't think it's best for you to have a van, don't do it. But that could be the same with anything. If you can afford a van and everyone's like, why don't you have an RV? No, you know what's right for you, and it does not always have to be what's cool, what's popular, or what everyone else is saying. So I just want to give you that little reminder. Again, I know that you don't need permission to do these things, but you also might feel a little weird about it. And I'm just giving you a reminder, like, you can travel however you want to, and it might be in a car. It might be that you want to take a motorcycle across the country and just camp every night, and that's that's okay. It's all okay. It's a good choice if it's your choice and you know that it's your choice and you're not just doing it because it's cool. Basically, I just want to remind you guys that you do not need to live the same way that you see other people living, no matter what it is. I'm specifically talking about traveling, but this is anything. This is the job you have. If you have a house, the family life that you want, you do not need to do things just because you watch other people do them. And even if you think that they're cool, that's great, but it still does not always mean it's for you. It could just be for someone else, and you could still think it's cool, but that does not mean that you have to do what everyone else is doing. You do have a choice. And so sometimes you might end up doing the cool thing, but just please make sure that it's your choice. That's all it is. But so again, you might see things online or that your friends have done. All it means is that they've done it. It does not mean that it's the only way to do it, the right way to do it, or it does not mean that you have to also do it. You could do it and you could love it, but you also don't need to, and that's totally okay. All right, 2 more in this video, and then I'm probably gonna do a part 3 as well. This one is very, very, very important to me. It's one that I've talked about a lot. Do not, this is still my opinion, but I'm pretty strong on this opinion, do not hike alone. I think hiking alone is one of the most dangerous things that you could do. And the 2 little like asterisks on this, I think it's okay to hike alone if you're on a really, 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 really popular trail that's really populated and there's a ton of other people, but you are just the only person in your own party. But literally when you're walking, there's 8 people in front of you and 12 behind you, then I think it's okay. And I've done that before. And the other little asterisk is if you have cell phone service and you know you're gonna have it the whole time, that's a little bit different as well, a little bit. And you might even say, well, you know, there's some trails that I've hiked 1,000 times and I do it alone all the time. I still would argue that it's not the safest thing to do. But I'm specifically gonna talk about new trails and trails when there's nobody around. I really do not recommend doing it alone. I know a lot of people do, and I know most of the time they're fine, but you actually never know what's gonna happen. If you fall and break your ankle and you're 3 miles into a trail and you do not have phone service and you're alone and you don't even know the last time you saw a person, I know that it's rare, and you guys know that I do not ever say that we should live by fear, ever. But I do think that we should be prepared for things, okay? And there's a really, really, really big difference. You can be prepared without feeling fear or giving into fear or not doing things. And so just something like that, if you know you're gonna be hiking, like when I go to national parks and I'm by myself, I usually will hike on the ranger-led tours. Not all of them have it, but like Yellowstone, for example, I think some of the big parks offer ranger-led hikes, and you can see them like in that little newspaper that they hand out. And basically they'll have a time and a place, and you meet the ranger and probably another group of people, and then you hike together. And the ranger generally teaches you things on the way and tells you about the trail, which I think is really cool as well. It's like a little added bonus. But I also know that a lot of professionals would also agree that hiking alone is just not the safest thing. It's just not the safest. I know some people actually say that the best number is at least 4, because if you get hurt, someone can stay with you, and then the other 2 people, at least they have a buddy to hike back to get help. I know that that's not always going to be something that you do. That's fine. Again, I've hiked alone before, but it's been on very populated trails. Like I remember specifically one time in Glacier National Park that I hiked alone. I was in Glacier by myself and I hiked alone, but there were so many other people on that trail. Like so many. Like usually they were within just like 2 feet of me. And so that just makes it a little bit safer just in case. This is just one that I like really believe in, because you never know. I actually did get hurt on a trail once and got really, really hurt. Like I would have not been able to walk back. And I was with one of my friends. And so he was able to help me get through it. But I've had this opinion way before that happened. Way before. I've had this opinion for years. I just don't think it's the safest thing to do, hiking alone. I think there's other ways to get around that. Again, if you have phone service, if you've been on the trail a lot, I still just don't really recommend it. If you can, hike with at least one other person, or hike on populated trails, or find a group hiking, or do like the ranger-led hikes or something like that, because it can just be dangerous. You never know. I really do not want people to live by fear, but I think being prepared and just knowing the risks and being honest about what's actually a risk is just helpful. Okay, the last one that I'm going to talk about is if you're traveling alone, if you're traveling with other people, do not let your guard down. I think one of the most important things about traveling, especially alone, is being hyper aware of yourself and your surroundings. This definitely pertains to if you're like flying around and stuff. And I did mention part of this in the first part of this video. I did mention, like, you know, be safe, make sure that you're not just telling strangers your itinerary and stuff like that. But this, what I'm talking about, like being hyper aware, goes even further. Be hyper aware of what you're doing, how you're feeling, the things that are going on in your life, but be extra aware of your surroundings. If you're in your car, make sure that your doors are locked. If you're about to go to sleep, make sure that everything's covered. Make sure that you were not making eye contact with someone as you walk back to your car and they see that you're by yourself. You know, again, I never, ever, ever, ever want to promote fear, ever. Most of the time you're gonna be fine, but it's just protect yourself and prepare yourself, you know? And so being aware of yourself and being hyper aware of your surroundings is going to make the world of a difference. And it's honestly gonna probably make you feel safer. If you know that you can trust yourself, if you do want to have some sort of protection on you, if you're like, oh, you know, that person seems like they're walking towards me and it's like 10 p.m., leave. If you're at a truck stop that you're about to sleep at, but there's someone who's trying to flirt with you and you don't really feel comfortable, leave. Again, it's not because you're afraid, it's because you're protecting yourself. And there are lots of ways to protect yourself on the road, and I just think that being hyper aware is one of them. If you do not feel safe, or if something seems sketchy, leave the situation. And be private with your information. There's a lot of ways to stay safe. If you want me to do like a whole video on safety, let me know. I know that I've done them in the past, but if you want me to do a new one, please let me know. But this specifically, be hyper aware of yourself and your surroundings. But I think that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Please let me know in the comments anything that you would actually recommend other people do not do when you're traveling alone. I would love to see them, and I know other people would as well. You guys know that we are a community here, and so I want you guys to share your opinions as well. But yeah, I have a lot of information that I want to talk about with you guys, so I really hope that you're subscribed, because I probably will do a part 3. But yeah, I guess that's gonna be it. Thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. I love you, Jesus loves you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.